Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today we need to talk about Sargon of Akkad, in other words, Carl Benjamin. Now, Englishman, that's it. Okay, I was expecting more of a description here, but whatever. Englishman then. Now, there are a lot of things that we could discuss when it comes to Carl Benjamin, his politics, his ideas, his positions, recent and old controversies. You know what? I decided to start with this one, called Reflections on Italy. I have watched a few of his videos from back in the day, and I really disliked some of the things he said. However, these were videos from years ago, and perhaps if they have clarified or even changed their mind on certain positions, I'm always open to have that kind of discussion. But I do have to admit that I've had only a single interaction with him on X, and he was very polite towards me, even though on a post of mine I had actually said that I did not like some of the positions that he had, and I was a little harsh in the way I presented my opinions. He was polite, he was respectful, and I have to say that for honesty. With that being said, let me see what he says about Italy.
So we decided to go to Italy. Now, as you can see from the Pompeii shirt I'm wearing, an old Pompeii shirt, I've been to Italy many times. I've been to Rome, I've been to Pompeii, I've been to a couple of other places whose names escape me offhand, and this time we decided to do sort of a little tour, spend a few days in different places.
Nice.
So we went to Sicily, which I've never been to before, and
wait, just so you know the stakes, that's where I'm from.
Then to Florence, and then to Pisa, and then came home. And I have been, like I said, I've been to Italy before, but I've been to very touristy places. And this time we did go to a few places that are not so touristy.
Okay.
And man, did I have a culture shock when I was there.
Let's see why.
It was quite surprising. And even some of the bits that were touristy were not like the bits I'd been to previously. I mean, Rome is quite a nice city, obviously. Beautiful. Full of lovely stuff.
Rome is my wife's favorite.
But it's obviously some kind of open-air museum. That's genuinely the impression that I got of it when I was there. And of course, when you go to Pompeii, that is literally just a big tourist area. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, the volcano made sure to that.
Or seeing an industry that's geared to deal with lots of foreigners coming and visiting. So you don't really get to see the authentic thing. Whereas this time we went to a few places that were not that touristy. Mm-hmm. In fact, some of them not touristy at all. And I tell you what, I don't want to hear people doing down Swindon anymore after seeing some of these places. So the first place we went to is Sicily, and I thought, right, okay, well, I personally would like to just see some of Sicily, and I would like to see Syracuse, because, of course, myself being a big ancient history guy, Syracuse was an important ancient city, and I wanted to go to the places where the action took place and actually see it for myself.
Oh yeah, Sicily rivaled with the great powerful cities of ancient Greece back in when everything actually was at its peak.
And I got to. But on the East Coast, we went to stay in a city called Catania.
Yeah. Now,
we arrived at the airport, got a taxi to the thing, and it was dark, but you could still see the streets. And I don't want to be mean, but it was a fucking shithole.
Based. Hold on a minute, Metatron. What are you on about? You're from Sicily, and we were expecting you to get so mad. What happened? I'm from Palermo. Okay, let me explain, because people may not know. I know that you guys don't know this, but there we go. So, what you don't know. I want to use this map a few times, because there are a few places that we need to talk about, and I need to tell Carl Benjamin. But regardless, I'm from here, Palermo. He went to here, Catania. See, Palermo and Catania are absolute, total rivals. We literally hate each other. So, if you tell someone from Palermo that Catania is a shithole, they will all tell you, yeah, exactly, based. And likewise, if you tell someone from Catania that Palermo is a shithole, they will say, oh yeah, Palermo, I can't stand them, yeah, based. It's just so you know. Anyways, think of it this way. Imagine telling someone from the deep south in America that New York or California sucks. Or imagine telling someone from California that one of the red states sucks. It's the same thing. Understand? So not a problem with these statements. Anyways, to my cousins and brothers from Catania, nothing personal. You know, you would have done the same, so shut it. You would have done the same, and I know it. I personally don't hate people from Catania. It's just a personal, playful rivalry. But some people freaking hate each other. Anyways, just to say, Catania city, depending on the area where he was, I can absolutely understand that he hated it. But I've got a very good friend of mine who is from a small town near the Etna. And it's absolutely beautiful. So some of the little small towns around the volcano are gorgeous. So it really depends. And this is going to be, I think, a theme for the entirety of my reaction to this video. Every time that he talks about an area or a place that he hated in Sicily, I'll tell you about, and I will show you, in fact, some of the best and most beautiful areas in Sicily. Because remember this, yes, Sicily is an island, but it's big. Like just to drive from Palermo to Messina takes you 3.5 hours. That is, if you drive like a maniac, meaning an Italian. So this is not a small, little, tiny place. And the differences in culture, architecture, language, cuisine between all these different areas, Agrigento, Palermo, Trapani, Messina, Catania, Siracusa, all this Caltanissetta, all the southern part, it was very Greek. There's a gorgeous section over here, but you gotta know it. You gotta know it. So, anyways, I'm sure that he probably liked Syracuse, at least the touristic areas. But yeah, I'll show you some of the good stuff. Some areas of Sicily are an absolute jewel. If you know where to go, Sicily is an absolute jewel of the Mediterranean. But it also has areas that are absolute, complete, utter shitholes. He's right. It's a bit like you could visit New York and think that Manhattan looks amazing, but then you could go to some of the areas in the Bronx and think, oh goodness gracious, where am I? It's kind of the same thing. Carl, I don't think you would judge London by East Croydon, would you? But please go on.
It's really bad. It was a fucking shithole. It's really bad. And it was a real culture shock from where we came from as well. Because, I mean, like, okay, Swindon's not the world's greatest place, but the outskirts of Swindon, which is where I live, it's lovely. And it's peaceful and normal. And we found ourselves in quite a dingy Sicilian, I suppose we would say, town.
Yeah, it looks
city
dingy.
With very narrow streets and weird suspect-looking men just standing around doing nothing. And then when the taxi pulled us up to the place where we had to be, I was like, oh my God, is this where we're staying? And it was on the 4th floor, no lift, so I had to carry our luggage up. 4th floor of this giant building in some sort of Airbnb. And the culture shock was quite extreme. I mean, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go out and get some food. My wife's like, I'm not going out, because she felt in danger of the area. Now, I don't think the area actually was dangerous, and after a day or so, she'd gotten used to it. It wasn't that bad. It was just a real shock compared to what we were used to, which is actually a place that is clean and feels safe. Because this was not clean and didn't feel safe. In fact, Catania, the whole thing, she thought I brought her to like the bad area of Catania, but it seems like the whole town was just like this. And so it was like, so I'm not trying to be mean, but it was just like, oh, right, okay.
Let me show you one thing, Carl, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with him, other than, again, there are some sections of Catania that are nice, but I suppose you weren't there with the locals, so it would have been impossible for you to find them. I want to show you one thing. My city, Palermo, also has some areas that are absolutely dreadful. Like, yeah. But this is the hotel where I took my wife when she came to visit me in Palermo. And to be honest, I understand that this is not something that everyone can afford, but I honestly think he can. So as you can see, the rooms are nice and clean, tidy. There you go. Okay, this is the best room in the hotel. I mean, this one is very expensive. I did not go for that one. But I mean, I'm saying. All right, this is from the outside. And to be fair, every hotel that I know does have a lift, so they will take you up. You won't need to carry all your luggage and that kind of stuff. So it really depends which hotel you go to. And once again, not trying to flex purchasing power. It's just to underline that I don't want you to think that all hotels in Sicily are like this.
I'm really trying not to be horrible, but holy crap, I wouldn't go there twice. The place smelled like an open air fish market or something, because it in fact smelled very much like rotten crabs.
Well, that means that you were staying near an open air fishmonger
in many of the areas, because there were
yeah, that's not a good. So I understand that that's the experience he had, and I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, but it's not a good representation of Sicily, to be fair. And it's not no pointing the finger. I'm just saying that I'm sorry that that's the experience he had. I'm just gonna say this, Carl. I know you just said that you will not go there a second time. I hope that there doesn't mean Sicily, but it only means the specific place that you have visited. If, for whatever reason, you end up wanting to visit Sicily again, please contact me and I will tell you all the best places, and I guarantee you will change your mind completely about the island. Guaranteed. And I'll show you some as we continue the video, but I want to let him speak.
Lots of seafood restaurants and fish markets, seafood markets, and they just dump the day's refuse in the bins near the market, which smelled absolutely abominable.
I've never seen that.
Gross.
I don't disbelieve him.
So the place didn't exactly have the most charm. Then when you're walking around, you're presented with non-stop graffiti. Every building, everywhere, all the time, is covered in graffiti that obviously goes up to sort of like, arm height as to where the people doing the graffiti can reach. And it just makes the place look foul. It's a vile thing to have everything graffitied. Now, in previous visits to Italy, I'd noticed that there was a lot of graffiti, and that's gross, really gross. Like in Rome and the train to Pompeii, like the trains just being completely graffitied up. It was just a vile thing, and it's just like, why would you want to live like that? And
the authorities do nothing. That's the problem, because the people agree with you. We, the people, agree with you.
Seeing graffiti on British trains now, the same sort of things happening. It just speaks to a real sort of decline. And and many of the Italian towns I've been to feel very run down.
Yes,
like nobody really cares about what happens on the streets and takes care of the streets.
The streets, but also like the balconies of the buildings, oftentimes they're left to decay, which is something that annoys me profoundly. Also because some of those balconies are medieval, and I mean it. There is a gorgeous town actually that is well kept. So so when it comes to medieval buildings, there is, apart from like the cathedral in Palermo, which is gorgeous. The area surrounding kind of depends. That area is still pretty good as long as you don't keep on going on a certain direction, but whatever. But there is one place called Erice. And if you want to feel like you are literally walking inside a medieval town that has preserved its aesthetics and real buildings, that's the place for you. And it's quite far from where he went, but it's a wonderful place. And once again, I took my wife there and she absolutely loved it.
Which is not how Northern European towns are.
Oh, no, of course.
I've been to many places like Germany, in England, in Norway.
He's right.
The streets of the towns themselves are well taken care of. And when they're not, everyone is constantly going on about potholes in the roads or broken tiling and stuff like this. But in Italy, this was just completely normal. Like this, it would be very easy to be walking along the street and trip and break your ankle, twist your ankle, because of the really poor conditions of the paving. And it's just like, okay, well, why do you want that? Like,
we don't.
I don't think that's necessary.
We don't. It's the government.
But there appears to be, I guess I'll get to this now rather than later. There's this kind of strange mindset.
I do remember that our politicians, regardless of whether it be left, right, or center, are some of the most paid politicians on the entirety of Europe. So if they could decrease a little bit those stipends and take care of the cities and the way they are run, we would be very happy as citizens.
In Italy, that this kind of strange mindset in Italy that it's I'm trying not to be mean, right? So I'm trying to be nice about this. But Italy is chaos.
Oh,
right?
yeah, no, for sure.
It is pure chaos.
That is true. Absolutely. Driving in Italy. yeah, I've done it. I've driven all over the place. And I mean, he's right. Italy is basically like, it's as if it was, imagine a place that is run like a mixture in between Khorne, meaning the blood god of Warhammer, with a bit of Slaanesh in it.
Because Italians seem to have it is pure chaos. Because Italians seem to have main character syndrome.
Yeah.
I've never seen driving as bad as Italy.
Absolutely.
I thought the driving in Greece was bad. I thought the driving in Spain was bad. No. In Italy, and in particular Sicily, although this was characteristic of Italy itself.
Oh, you should see Naples. Naples is worse than Sicily.
The driving is awful. And all of the cars have got like dings in them. All of them. And I can't believe there aren't more road traffic accidents. I didn't see anyone getting run down. But basically...
That's what you call organized chaos. Within our chaos, we're organized.
Italians don't really use their indicators.
Oh, yeah.
And they just walk into the street. If you want to cross the road, you just walk out into the road. As if your life isn't dependent on those guys stopping, coming to you. And so it's just this complete... It's chaos, just everywhere.
I'll have to agree with him. When I first visited Switzerland as an 18-year-old, and then I've been 5 times. I love Switzerland. But the one thing that really surprised me and my friends from Sicily and Italy all over the place is that cars would actually stop. Like that was the first time in my life that I realized that pedestrian crossings are not just a decoration.
No order whatsoever. And everyone just taking their lives into their hands just all the time. And this is normal to the Italians.
Yeah.
And I'm just like...
I confirm.
I just don't know why you would choose to live that way. I just don't know why that would be the way that you would organize your society.
Yeah, the reality is I don't think we choose to live that way. I think we just react to the mess of a jungle that Italy is. And we just react to it.
It's just non-stop in the streets, complete disorder. Yeah. And also the way the streets are laid out. I mean, obviously they're old cities, so they're not planned.
Yeah, medieval.
But the streets are incredibly narrow,
Bronze Age,
incredibly packed with cars and little bikes, like mopeds and various other things. And obviously just people just wandering all to and fro all over the place. And so it's just like, right, okay. It's got this kind of like warren or hive feeling to it, which felt constraining. I really didn't like it. And I really felt a huge amount of culture shock going to these places. And the people on the streets, just walking around the streets, just didn't give each other consideration. Right. I mean, not only for when you're driving, just literally, you've got cars going by, and then the taxi driver just pulls straight out into it, and these cars have got to brake suddenly. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yes, so
small amount of consideration goes a long way. Yeah. You don't have to drive like you're in India. You could drive like you're in a modern first world country if you wanted. But it's with everything, just wandering around the streets. People just don't move for you. They don't give you any consideration as they're going past. And so you feel like you're constantly in this kind of war with everyone wandering around where no one's giving anyone else any consideration. If you want to get someone, you just have to push your way through.
Yeah.
And it's normal to live like that in Italy.
Yes, but we hate it. And the split second that we step foot in another... I mean, I moved from... If you want to talk about culture shock... Carl, do consider this. As a Sicilian, I moved from Sicily to Japan. Spent a few years there. Imagine that. When I returned from Japan, I felt like an alien.
Whereas in England and in Germany and Norway, people were polite and like would see you coming and make allowances for the fact that you were coming, as you would make allowances for them, and suddenly you have a much more friendly feeling civilization, which is just, again, I know I'm going on about a very strange thing here, but this was a huge culture shock for me, and I didn't really enjoy it at all.
Okay, let me show you something you may have enjoyed. So I understand that absolutely, 100%. Cities, particularly in Sicily, tend to be extremely chaotic. If you want to see some of the most beautiful and transparent waters and sea of greens and blues that you've ever seen in your life, I strongly suggest places like Capo d'Orlando, and Santo Stefano is also really, really beautiful. But personally, yeah, I mean, absolutely stunning waters. So I'm sorry you didn't get to see that. If you like medieval stuff, Erice, as I was saying, this is a town up in the mountains. And you walk around and it's basically like you're playing a D&D adventure. The churches are once again from the Middle Ages, still standing. The battlements and towers. So just to give you an idea, this is actual castle. And it's gorgeous, and because it's up in the mountains, it does get a little misty at times. It depends. And I mean, when you walk around the streets, they are, as I say, it feels like you're walking around like a D&D or a Morrowind map. And it's nice and cool. The temperature is very different from the rest of Sicily. Here are other examples of the kind of structures that you'll see all over the town. And the food is great. I mean, look at this. Now, I have to imagine that if you like ancient Greece, of course, I have to imagine that he has been to the Valle dei Templi, the Valley of Temples, which just to give you an idea, it's the southern part here, southern western, if you will, Agrigento, that's where the Valley of Temples is. So he has been to Catania and Siracusa. I don't know if he's been to Agrigento, I hope so. I don't think he's been to Palermo, unfortunately. But anyways, this is the Valley of Temples, and they also light it up at night. It looks really beautiful. But personally, I mean, look at this. Look at this. Personally, however, as a teenager already, and then afterwards as an adult, I spent a lot of time in Greek ruins because, I mean, you just pay four euros and you can stay all day. So I wrote stuff, ideas, journals, as you were standing in places that are like 3,000 years old. And in Sicily, we have some of the best standing temples, Greek temples in the world. Everyone goes to the Valley of Temples in Agrigento. What I like is Selinunte instead, which is an entire settlement, ancient Greek settlement. In excellent conditions, you still see the battlements on the harbors and ports. And the historic significance is outstanding. Now, some of it you see crumbled here because there was an earthquake that did that relatively recently. But there are a lot of temples that are still standing, and others, they actually sort of put them back up together. Segesta is another temple that I love, mostly because this one, it being an ancient Greek temple, it was built outside of the city proper. Instead, the Romans would build their temples inside the towns. Instead, the Greeks liked to consider the area around the temple to be sacred, and so they would choose a location that they felt was special. And this location, my friends, you can't really see it from the pictures, but the idea is you go up a set of stairs, and then you find yourself at the top of this hills, mountains, and then you see the temple, and everything that surrounds the temple is untouched nature. So this is a fantastic place to visit because it takes you back, and you don't see modern buildings for miles. I mean, as you can kind of see here, right? So Segesta is another place that I always love taking people to, and then it has gorgeous flowers just around it. But then again, for medieval stuff, this is my city, Palermo, and we still have a cathedral that was built in the 12th century, and it's still entirely standing, and it's this one, and fully medieval, and it's absolutely gorgeous to visit. A lot of statues all around as well. There you go, you can kind of see it here. Palermo has a lot of palms, by the way, so expect to see that. And as I say, I'm not trying to say that Palermo doesn't have horrid places. It absolutely does, but it also has a lot of medieval, also Norman art and structures. For instance, a Palazzo dei Normanni. This is an actual Norman palace when the Normans were in power. And outside might not look like much, but when you go inside, the chapel is gorgeous, and then you can see, all the inside areas are very beautiful to visit. If you go to the town of Monreale, right above Palermo, they have a cathedral that is not as impressive as the one from Palermo, although the inside part where there's the monastery, where it's also very nice, but the inside is incredible. Everything is paved in gold. And there is this famous picture of Jesus Pantocrator, very nice. And in fact, churches in Sicily, when you know where to go, outstanding. It's just you need to know where to go. And then there is Sicilian food, but I want to let him speak, so maybe I'll show you that later.
This, again, it just felt like main character syndrome that the Italians are suffering from. But they also do a lot of milling around, which I noticed, just standing around in the streets for ages, just doing nothing, which I found really weird. Because even when I was a kid and I had nothing to do, we didn't just mill around, we'd find something to do. But no, the Italians just...
Depends on who it is, because sometimes if it's someone standing and they're doing nothing, but they are looking around, they might be actually doing something, for someone. I'll just keep it at that.
Sit around and mill a lot, which, okay, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily pass judgment on that. But what was really interesting in comparison to the public spaces, which the Italians, I feel, kind of have just decided, right, okay, that's out of anyone's control. There's no chaos. It's all chaos. There's no order. And the thing is, it's not just the people themselves wandering around chaotically. It's also the arrangement of the buildings. Like, we stayed on a street in Florence that wasn't even properly numbered. There were 2 of the same number house that we were supposed to be staying at either end of the street. And the street wasn't in numerical order. So you didn't even know which direction you were supposed to be going in.
I wonder if it's something that he may have misunderstood, because sometimes it's a little complex to understand, but there is a system within the chaos. So, but then again, I don't know which streets, did it have letters in it? I'm not sure, but I don't want to guess without knowing exactly which street in Florence. Florence is gorgeous, though. I mean, so is Milan, by the way. If you want a little more order, I'd say Milan probably is the place for you. My wife, once again, absolutely adores Milan, but she loves Palermo. Also because I always take her to the nice places, of course. So that's the thing. I think the main problem here, Carl, is that you don't have me showing you where to go and organizing your entire stay. Please send me an email next time.
To find the place that we were staying. And so why would anyone live like this? Why wouldn't you have some sense of propriety in just ordering the number of the buildings? It's like there's 27 there, there's 16 there, and there's 8 over there. Like on that same street. Why are you living like this?
Most Italian cities are not like that. In fact, most Italian streets are correctly numbered. That must have been an odd situation that he may have found himself in. Sometimes it has to do with the renaming of streets, and perhaps they didn't, like the street changes name, and so they restart the numbers. But then again, this is not descriptive of Italy. It's descriptive of that specific street that he saw.
It was really, really weird. And again, just a profound culture shock. Mm-hmm. But the chaos of the street is very, very starkly contrasted with the prim and proper and orderliness of the private.
Yeah.
Like the Italians have just gone, no, okay, we can't get other Italians to behave in a civilized manner. But in my house, in my private area, in the restaurant I own, or in the cafe or whatever it is, man, was that orderly, tidy, neat, clean, and well regulated.
Appreciate that.
And they are very judgmental about people in their private spaces. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad or anything like that. In fact, it's in many ways admirable. But is there any reason that you can't bring that kind of energy to the public space? Like, actually, your streets could also be well ordered if you all took that energy and applied it to the way that you deal with the outside. So,
now, I think the only way to achieve that, to be honest, I appreciate the suggestion, the advice. They do say that advice is the worst vice. But I will say, as an Italian, I think the only way to achieve that kind of orderly interaction on the streets in Italy is to relocate the Italians somewhere else and move all the English in there. I'm just going to say it. And with a bit of Northern Europeans, we don't stand a chance.
Essentially, it feels like there's this kind of raging inferno on the streets of like crazy things happening and people doing mad things. And then you step out of the street Like, Italian life seems to be an attempt to get away from the public life, incidentally.
In a way, yeah.
You come into any private space, any privately controlled space, and it is tranquil.
Yeah.
It is calm. It is quiet. It is beautiful.
And again, what he's describing is city life. If you want that kind of tranquility in the public areas, you need to go to the little small towns in the rural areas, and then you'll find that. So it really kind of depends. Unfortunately, cities can be extremely chaotic in Italy.
Beautifully ordered, beautifully maintained.
Mm-hmm.
And then you step out into the street and it's a chaotic slum. And it's like, okay, but you know how to live well. You could just have your indoor personalities on the outside, which is what the English do.
Yeah.
As well as having your outside personalities then can be on the inside, and you can have an orderly society everywhere.
I think the problem is also education, because they should teach this level of civic education first as to the children in school. That's something the Japanese do, and I imagine the English. And it's something that there should be a complete reform of the educational system in Italy. I taught in Italy for a decade, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. And the other thing is that the government should really start utilizing the budgets properly and for city maintenance. And I think that one of the reasons I believe why a lot of Italians don't even bother, and this is more common in the south than it is in the north, but it is kind of something that happens, the chaotic aspect of it, the rundown of some of the situations, once again, area specific. But the reason why I think a lot of fellow Italians don't bother is because they know that the government doesn't bother. So if you think Sicily was dirty, wait to see Naples. And the reality is that if the government did their job, whichever it is, left or right, and they actually spent a lot of budget and money into keeping the cities clean, once you are given a clean space, it's easier to think, well, I want to maintain that. But if the cities don't get the budgets and everything is let to rot, then at one point, people who were brought up in that, they just consider that as, well, that's the only way to live. Particularly if you haven't visited another place, you just think that that's just how it is.
I'm not trying to. Again, I'm not in any way trying to sound derogatory, because I do like Italy. I've been there many times. I had a good time. I just never really thought about the cultural differences in such.
Oh yeah, sure.
They never struck me as being so forward and just in my face before, but now I just can't not see it. So anyway, this was a strange contrast that I noticed. For anyone wondering, the food was of course delicious.
Thank you.
Give them the credit there. Italian food is brilliant.
Yep.
Apart from their pizzas.
Oh, come on.
American pizza's better.
You're wanting war, do you?
No, I'm joking. Or am I joking? No, I do like American pizza. Anyway, the point is the food is superb.
This is a top quality pizza margherita in Naples from Da Michele. So already if you haven't eaten pizza in Naples, you can't really judge Italian pizza. If the only pizza you had was a cheeky slice in Rome, you have no idea what the true potential of Italian pizza is, okay? But there are two pizzerias specifically in Palermo that next time you gotta try. One is called Archestrato di Gela. They have some of the best pizza. When my mother-in-law, American, came to Sicily, to Palermo, and we had this pizza, she said, this was the best pizza I've ever had in my life. She couldn't believe it. Whereas my wife's favorite is called Siculo. It's a pizzeria in, can't really see it here, Siculo, in Palermo. It's her favorite pizza. And just 2 days ago, she was telling me, I would give anything to have Siculo's pizza again. Because, yeah, it is that good. So, I know my places, man.
The Italians are great.
American pizza can be good. It's just that Italian pizza is objectively superior. And to any American who's going to tell me, no, have you had the pizzas that I've just mentioned? No, then you can't speak. I have had pizza in America, and I like it. I just prefer Italian one.
Cooks. So, you can take that. And yes, that's a win for you, Italy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So anyway, going back to Catania.
Are you sure
it was just
go back to that?
Horrible. Genuinely horrible. And for anyone who complains about Swindon is just 10 times better than this town. Mm-hmm. It was just so much worse. And the thing is, this was a major hub. Like, this wasn't a small place. And it was actually enormous. And we needed to go there to get to Syracuse, because of course that's where the airport was. And it's an hour journey on the train to get to Syracuse. And then we travel from Pisa to Florence to Pisa. We use the train there. And my God, Italian trains are so much better than our trains. You can tell that we are subsidizing this. Not only are they more comfortable, they're more spacious, they're less crowded, and there are more of them.
They're just always late.
They're also way cheaper. So each time to get from Catania to Syracuse about an hour, to get from Florence to Pisa about an hour. And in Britain, for me to get from Swindon to London, Paddington, is an hour. That's well north of £50. And it could be over £100 if you're going at the wrong time of day. In Italy, it was about €8. €8.
That's all right.
Some of these trains were like double-decker trains. They were genuinely comfortable, and the trains were just lovely. And I was just like, my God, we are getting so ripped off. And it's because the Italian state trains, the company that's owned by the state, owns a lot of our trains, like some our East Coast Line trains or something like Avanti, and we're subsidizing it. And I was just, we need to nationalize the trains, lads, right? The Europeans have nationalized their trains. We need to nationalize our trains. It's just the way that things have to be.
And you probably haven't been into the Frecciarossa, which means red arrow, and it's the trains that connect the south to the north. And you can sleep in those. It's really nice. You get a full bed, and lovely.
It's just the case that we are getting the worst trains, the most expensive trains in Europe, for a reason. It's because these vampires are taking the profits from them and making their own trains bloody lovely to use. We can have that. We can have that. Anyway, I went to Syracuse, which was great. I saw a bunch of historical stuff in Syracuse that I wanted to see. Got to see the port of Syracuse, which is nice, the harbour, which is what made Syracuse a superb place.
The papyri, did you see the plants that were used in antiquity to make papyrus?
The jury's still out whether they had a chain on there or not, but the point is you can see why this would become a powerful city-state in antiquity. And I saw the quarry where the Athenians were sent to die after the failed Athenian expedition, which was superb. Absolutely. Again, I'm talking a lot about like contemporary Italian culture, but they do a very, very good job of preserving the very long history that they have and the large amount of it. Like, they do a very good job of that. And so that was excellent, absolutely excellent. We went to the Valley of the Temples in Agrigentum.
Yeah, Agrigento, yeah. I thought he would, but I don't think he visited the other two that I mentioned, unfortunately.
And, a couple of little villages here and there. And it was just a lovely, lovely time and a lovely place. Sort of an incredible Roman villa that has the most amazing mosaics. I'll try.
That's Villa Romana del Casale. I love that villa. There is also a restaurant right next to it that makes the best basil tomato sauce that you could ever dream of.
I remember to throw up some pictures.
I took my students there.
Just incredible preservation of stuff.
Class trip.
And this is all taken very seriously, and that's great. So, very, very good. I personally got to enjoy a bunch of stuff.
Good.
Florence is an incredible place.
Yep.
Genuinely a vibrant, beautiful, and obviously very wealthy place.
It is, yeah.
Florence Cathedral, actually, though, was one of the more disappointing cathedrals.
I think the Duomo di Milano, the cathedral in Milano, is more beautiful. And again, if you haven't seen the cathedral in Palermo, and that one is incredible, because we have to remember, yes, Florence is a wealthy place, but you should have seen the Kingdom of Two Sicilies in the medieval period. The south is where most of the wealth was focused and concentrated, which created the cathedral that I just showed you earlier on as an expression of power and wealth.
Anything of any real note in there, I thought, was the tapestry of Sir John Hawkwood, an English mercenary who was very famous in his day in like the 15th century. But actually it was not terribly well decorated inside.
No, you have to see the
Whereas you can just walk into like the average church.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to walk into a church. So here's a church.
I did tell you.
And you get that chaos of the street and the sort of dilapidation of the street. You go into a little slice of heaven.
True.
Whereas the average church in these towns is just unbelievably beautiful.
Yep.
gilded, paintings everywhere. The whole thing just immaculate.
That's because you're looking at a different time. I think Italy in the medieval period, Italy in the Roman era, Italy under the Greek expansion, and even earlier than that, it was really at its max. And the external is modern Italy, which is a mess, but the food is great. They did not have tomatoes in ancient Rome.
And you just think, wow, this is incredible. And so the cathedral in Florence was actually a bit disappointing, frankly. It was,
I can understand that.
Kind of bare, frank. It was kind of I expected it to be something that would blow your socks off, but it really wasn't. But the building on the outside, absolutely lovely. Mm-hmm. Pisa was a surprisingly run-down place as well. It just felt kind of, especially like the outskirts of it, that we had to travel through, looked horrific, frankly. The place smelled like an open sewer. It's like, right, okay, why are you letting that happen? Especially as Pisa itself is, of course, a famous tourist city. Historic, yeah. But it's actually only sort of one central area with the Leaning Tower, the cathedral.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're interested in a place that, rather than going to a place like this, where it's like, yeah, it's historic, that area, and that's it, I usually prefer those towns that are preserved and frozen in time. And not only you have Erice in Palermo, in Sicily that I described, but Viterbo in Lazio area, the same region as Rome, is another one of those very medieval and wonderfully preserved entire sections of the town look like that, and that's what I personally like to visit.
And then a basilica or something.
I have family there
next to it. This round building, which was quite nice. That was actually the sort of touristy area of it. The rest of it is just kind of run down, left behind area, and with a general kind of smell of an open sewer. And it was just like, right, okay, it's kind of grim. Again, I'm not trying to do anyone down, but this is honestly the impression that I got of it.
No, but we Italians are with you when it comes to that. We hate it when things are not preserved because, again, it's an extremely rich country, probably one of the most historically deep and culturally profound nations in the world. That's what I think about Italy, and it's horrible when things are not kept, and the kind of treasures that we have. When things like this do happen, it's unsettling.
And I was just like, okay, that's weird. The Leaning Tower is leaning. Yeah. So
a bit less
demerits for that. Should have been put straight, obviously. Beautiful tower. Why have you left it crooked?
Because people like you go and visit it. Meaning tourists. That's why they're leaving it like that.
And being in Pisa as well, a bit of a demerit. But the tower itself is actually beautiful. It's weird to climb it. You can climb it. It's perfectly safe, I assume. And so it's 251 steps up. So you're about out of breath by the time you get to the top. It's not too bad. But it's weird and disconcerting because it is on a slight lean. Yeah. And of course, when you're climbing steps, you're normally used to just, straight steps as you go up. And so to have, as you go around the thing, you can feel
the pull.
More of a pull on the leaning side than on the side on the other side. So it's just disquieting to go up and be at the top of. But it's a beautiful marble tower. Absolutely gorgeous.
There are entire towns in the Middle Ages that had hundreds of these, by the way. Now they only have a few left. I was considering making an episode on it, showing you how some of the marvels and how things used to be. But it was a thing in medieval Italy to build towers like maniacs. And as I say, there are towns that had hundreds. So it would have been kind of almost an equivalent of like a Manhattan, but with medieval structures.
And you get an incredible view, obviously. They've got a series of mountains in the background.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible sites and beautifully built. Absolutely lovely thing. So it's definitely worth your time seeing the touristy things. Like Florence is, again, another one of those things where be prepared to spend a lot of money. Obviously, it's an expensive place. And
Florence, Venice, and Milan. Mostly Florence and Venice, I would say, are very expensive, whereas the south is very inexpensive. So there is that. It kind of depends. Rome can be very expensive too, but I think those cities, specifically Venice is gorgeous. I love Venice. That's what I proposed to my wife, by the way. Venice is gorgeous, and once again, if you choose the right hotel in the right area, it can be a charming, almost dreamlike experience.
There's lots of leather shops and things like that, so be prepared to get some gifts for people. But it is absolutely lovely. The the museum in Florence with the famous artworks. I mean, I saw the statue of David in the flesh, as it were. And it's massive. I didn't realize how big it was. It's like 3 meters tall or something. It's absolutely colossal. But of course, it is spectacular. I saw the statue of Perseus, which is just outside on display. The statue of Machiavelli at the museum, which is also outside on display. And loads of famous artworks. Like these sort of famous artworks you've seen pictures of on the internet are actually in this museum in Florence. The Fusio Galleries, I think it's called. And it genuinely, it's just astounding collections of things that they have there, like art and archaeology and history. So you will not at all waste your time if you want to see these things in the flesh. Like, they're genuinely beautiful.
Yeah.
They're really magnificent. And it's the sort of thing that, you know, Italy can have many other problems, but you can't take this away from it. Right. This is where it truly shines, in having some of the most beautiful things in the world and having preserved them really well. Yeah. I guess the final thing to talk about is, there were a lot of foreigners there. And I don't mean tourists either. I mean foreigners, essentially, you know, play acting as Italians. Like, you know, foreigners speaking Italian and running Italian shops. And like, weirdly, like, there's loads of Africans around who just want to talk to you, and they want to tell you how great Africa is. And I'm just like, okay, well, why are you like talking to me about Africa?
This is strange though, because in Sicily, of course, we're very close to, now he's talking about Florence, I suppose, but in Sicily, of course, we have a lot of Africans due to the fact that it's quite clearly nearby. But with all the Africans I've ever met, I always spoke, it was a great way for me to practice both English and French. I've never had a single African tell me how good Africa is. It might be a recent thing, to be honest. Might be a recent thing.
In Italy, I'm not really interested in talking about Africa generally, especially not when me and my wife were just on holiday in Italy. I was just, why would I want to be talking about Africa with you? It's just really weird. They're just standing around, and I assume that they are pickpockets.
Oh gosh, I don't know if they're pickpockets, Carl. I'll be honest with you. I think you're assuming a bit much here. Again, I've never been pickpocketed by an African I don't know how the situation is now with the migrant waves. Perhaps it's a different scenario to what I remember. The only times that I've been pickpocketed in Sicily and in Naples was from a Sicilian and from a Neapolitan. But as I say, I don't know how the situation is right now.
I assume that what they're trying to do is steal something from me, because I just don't understand why they'd be standing around at these public, like the monuments and whatnot, just trying to strike up conversation about Africa with people. I can only assume they're here to try and steal something, trying to take my wallet or something, right? Why else would they be doing it? It's really, really weird, because a lot of they weren't trying to sell you something. Like, if they were trying to sell you something, you'd at least understand, oh, these are...
That's the Pakistani.
You know, just trying to shill some stuff or whatever. But they weren't trying to do that. They were trying to just talk to you about Africa.
I guess that's something that happens to an Englishman. Although, once again, I haven't been to Italy in a while now.
And black people. Like, literally, one of them came up and said, oh, do you love black people? I'm like, what? What do you do? You know, did you get those shoes from Africa? They're really nice. Like, my shoes aren't nice. And no, I didn't get them from Africa. Like, but again, I assume that this is about throwing me off my guard and not really about proselytizing Africa to me.
No idea. That could be your perspective. That could be a you problem. Who knows? Maybe one of these guys did want to rip you off, or maybe the others actually were complimenting your shoes at this point. I don't even know.
But there were lots of Indians working in shops and things like that there. So just FYI, you're going to meet a lot of non-Italians in Italy doing the things that you expected Italians to be doing, like running restaurants and things. But to be
that mostly happens in touristic areas. You will see a lot of Chinese in Prato, for instance. There are some areas of Tuscany that have a lot of Chinese.
Fair, there were still quite a lot of Italians living in these cities.
Of course.
Whereas in areas of England, you'll find there are areas that are just nothing but foreigners, and you'll go to an English area. There were lots of Italians amongst all the foreigners. And so what this meant was it still felt rather Italian, even if you'd see a bunch of shops that were run by foreigners. Because there were lots of Italians around on the streets and also running like Italian restaurants. It was not hard to find Italian restaurants that were staffed entirely by Italians, even though lots of them were staffed by foreigners. So it still felt like an authentically Italian experience, even though, I don't know, maybe say 20% of the people that you meet are foreign, something like that.
Depends on the area and the city.
Again, depending on where you are.
Thank you.
But, I mean, in Catania, there are far fewer foreigners, far more Sicilians or Italians, whatever I'm supposed to call them. So it's...
Same thing, to be honest. It's like saying Londoners or Englishmen. Sicilian is just a way to specify what area an Italian comes from. But we are, in other words, all Sicilians are Italians, but not all Italians are Sicilians.
You can see the effect that mass immigration has had on Italy.
I can see that.
And another thing that I couldn't help notice, there are not that many kids around. Now, I appreciate the Italian birth rate is basically, I think it's lower than one at this point.
Pretty bad.
And it shows.
Yeah.
Like, there are not many kids around. And nothing, like, going through the towns and cities, very little of it was geared towards kids. Like, you didn't see play parks or, like, here we've got, like, soft plays and stuff like that. We saw one soft play in this whole time. And so it's a civilization that is not geared towards raising children, which I'm sure is downstream of the fact that most Italian women aren't raising children now, I suppose. But it just...
Probably something that happened in the last couple of generations, to be honest, because even my mum's generation, they were all having multiple kids.
Feels like this is an unusual thing. Especially as you can't help but feel that, say, 50 years ago, like, children would have been a staple part of normal Italian life.
Absolutely,
right?
I mean, he's correct.
Every woman would have had dozens of children, probably,
Maybe
so it's weird that it's a kind of post-family environment in Italy. Like, it's just really strange. Because at least, I mean, in England, we are getting to that point, but there are still lots of things for families to do. And I just didn't see that in Italy. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist anywhere or anything. I'm just saying where I went, I didn't see it. But it was...
I think for Italians, something you do with the family is to go to the restaurant. So I guess the restaurants play a part into that because Italian food is so connected culturally to the family life that it's probably it's either church or restaurant, I suppose. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I watched almost all of the video. So as I say, some of the things I just had to be open-minded and just, be a good sport and admit it, because when he's right. Other things I think were a bit of a misunderstanding or from his part because of his own outlook into it. At the end of the day, it's not like he spent a year in Italy, whereas I did spend a few years in England, so I feel I'm in a better position to explain England. But in general, I would say that very much has to do, particularly his perception of Sicily, and a lot of it has to do with the locations that may have been chosen. So as I say, next time, happy to point you into the right direction. Anyways, thank you for watching.